You are listening to an unconventional finance interview with your host, Elijah Johnson. Find us on the web at youtube.com/unconventionalfin.
Today's guest is David Morgan, founder of silver-investor.com. It's a pleasure to have you, David.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So starting with the basics, what is silver-investor.com and what's the story behind it?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to the very beginning. And at the time I started the web site, or the web page in those days, was really a research site for my own benefit. I actually started on a different URL name. I don't even remember the name of the URL. And after I had left I was working for a brokerage business, a boutique type brokerage business in the northern San Francisco Bay Area, and trading on my own. I moved up to the Great Northwest here, and my neighbor was working on Cyan, which was one of the best, most well-known internet games at the time. This is going back again, probably 13 years or so. Anyway, he encouraged me to get a better URL, which I did. I wanted silverinvestor.com, and that one was taken. The guy wanted $5,000 for that URL, so I put a hyphen between the word silver and investor, and it only cost me like $99. So that's how it started. It started as a research site. I would search the net, come up with interesting websites. A lot of it were academic stuffs back in those days. I think the Silver Institute had a website. A few others. There wasn't really that much data, but I would collect it so I wouldn't have to search the web constantly. I would put it on my page. And after several months, a gentleman asked me, what I did. And I said, well, I write a newsletter, which was a bit of a fib because that's what I wanted to do, but really hadn't captured any clients. And so he said, well, great. How much is it? I'll buy it. And I said, geez, in my head, I said, wow, I'm finally doing what I've always wanted to do my whole life. And I don't know what to charge this guy. So I was thinking, well, silver's about $5. An ounce a month would be 12 ounces, $60. So I said $60. He said, fine, I'll buy it. And that's how it basically started. So that's the start of it. What is it? It's, I believe, and this is, of course, me talking about our own site, and it's not just me. I mean, I have a pretty good staff these days. In fact, I was just on the phone with my webmaster. Regardless, it's one of the, I think, the premier sites for information on silver. There's several now. When I started, again, well over a decade ago, there was myself, the Silver Institute. Ted Butler had a site up, but hadn't really put his newsletter business on at that time. He was writing for Jim Cook of Investment Rarities. Ed Steer, a lot of these guys that I've known from the very beginning, none of them really had blogs or websites. So one of the earliest on the silver market, and several have grown since then, but I think it's probably one of the better resources for all things silver. And of course, it goes well beyond that. We look at the global economy and the macroeconomic picture, as you well know.
So what is your take on what has been happening to the metals recently and the mining stocks?
Well, as we all know, a lot of selling pressure has come in, primarily through the futures markets, paper-driven prices on these metals, and that has taken these metals down rather substantially. I think a lot of people felt a year ago or more, when silver was hitting the $48 level and gold was well above 1,800, that was, up and away, and it can only go up. And obviously that's the energy of a top. That's the kind of thinking at a top, and I call it a top in silver, around the $48 level, meaning a temporary top. But those type of run-ups usually take quite some time to consolidate. Normally about a year and a half, perhaps two. I don't think it'll take 2 years this time, but remember, it's only been about a year. And in that year's time, the sentiment has gone from extremely overbought to extremely oversold. And the sentiment has gone along with that. The euphoria has gone from euphoria to almost disdain in some cases. I know I'm getting some cancellations on subscribers, and a lot of people that are quote-unquote true believers are starting to question whether or not these metals are a good investment or not.
So I know you invest a lot in the mining stocks. For the average investor, which is better, the mining stocks or the physical precious metals?
Well, I've been very consistent in that. I've always suggested that people start a precious metals portfolio with precious metals. And I am not a bullion dealer, but I really believe that's the best place. And the reason for that is physical silver and gold coins or bars, anything in the physical realm of the precious metals, is the only thing outside the main financial system. Everything else has counterparty risk to it. You've got to go through a broker or a banker or something in order to clear the position. Whereas with gold and silver, you don't. It's an immediate transaction. I could trade you, some silver coins for a laptop you wanted to sell, or a cell phone, or something that you wanted to sell and I wanted to buy, or vice versa. I could sell you something I want to sell for, silver or gold without any intermediary, no clearing, no bank, no Federal Reserve, nothing. On the other hand, if we have the mining shares or anything above that, there's added risk. There is a third party involved, and you can't really get around that. However, it's also an opportunity for a lot of people to play catch up in this huge bull market that I believe we're still in. The reason being is that the mining shares have been beat up so badly, much more than the metals, that they are absolutely the best opportunity here, but they're not for everybody. I mean, I have subscribers that are metals only people. In other words, they believe that they don't trust any paper assets. They don't trust any third-party situations, and that's their prerogative. Certainly, they are free to believe whatever they want. I think it's worth the risk. I also believe that when the cycle continues up in a big way, that a lot of people that are late into this market will filter into the mining shares and bypass buying physical metal. Now, again, that's not what I teach. But that's exactly what they'll do, because they'll be looking at gold and silver's prices at extremely high levels, and they'll be thinking that, they are not going to spend that kind of money to buy a gold coin or a silver coin, but they'll buy these small penny stocks with gold and silver in their names, and you'll see a huge, huge run in those mining stocks eventually. I'm looking for that big run-up to probably start place in probably 2014 to 2016, something along those lines.
In your work, you talk about precious metal manipulation. Does the manipulation have an effect on when you buy?
It does, to a degree. I mean, there's always an argument going on whether technical analysis works in a manipulated market or not. I would argue it does. My track record speaks for itself. So the tools I use are sentiment and a lot of technical tools as well. And basically, when you look at technical analysis, whether a market's manipulated or not, all the data comes into the technical work. In other words, when someone's selling 10 times the amount of silver on paper that exists above ground, or exists in all the data comes in, whether it's manipulated or not. So the amount of selling on the paper markets is hugely extreme, but nonetheless, the data shows up in the technical work. So I think it benefits us to look at the technical work, also to look at sentiment and determine, bottoms and tops using both of those. I use both fundamentals and technical work and a lot of experience. So, and also, following the markets, seeing these spike lows and spike highs I've seen for so many years. So you kind of get a feel for it. And the way I trade normally is letting the market determine what the entry and exit points are. This is very difficult to do for a beginner, mostly, but it's a good way to trade because it really keeps the emotions at a minimal level. You're not betting that you're picking a bottom. You're absolutely making the market prove to you that it wants to go up. Does it work all the time? No, but it works about 85% of the time. And the entries and exits are based upon a lot of different factors. I actually have a service that's not a trading service. It's a look over my shoulder service where I show you how the setups are going and what my plan is and what my trades are. And I do not trade that often. I like to trade positions where I might have a position on for several months. Sometimes they work in the several months trades, and sometimes it gets stopped out within days. It just, that's the nature of the markets.
So I think a lot of us already know your opinion on this, but how do you think the mining stocks and the physical metal will be affected by the economy in the future?
Well, very positively. The physical economy is really what we should be focusing on, and most people don't. They look primarily at the financial markets to get an idea of how the financial system is doing, and certainly that's a reflection. But the real reality is when you're driving around your local hometown and you see how much new wealth is being created, how many new businesses are going up, who's got help wanted signs out, basic common sense stuff. So if you just open your eyes and take a look rather than trying to find out, what the Fed's latest report is going to say or any of that stuff, and you look at the true nature of the physical economy, what you'll find is it's slowing down more and more and more. And the wealth creation in the West is subsiding. Not that there isn't new ideas and new products, there are, but not nearly enough to grow our way out of this deficit problem. And a lot of the newer stuff is coming through the East, through China and India primarily. So it's a shift. The wealth is increasing in the East and decreasing in the West. And I believe that's a mega trend that will continue for quite some time, meaning decades. And so the lifestyle of the average American is going to be going down, not up, regardless of how much quote unquote money they make. Because in this last and final phase of the great inflations, what governments do is they cover their tracks more or less, and you continue to get more and more quote unquote money, which means the number on your check is larger, but it purchases less and less and less. In other words, in real purchasing power, you're losing all the time. Most people, some people certainly that own businesses or have some product that's very much in demand can actually do well during those downturns, but the majority doesn't.
Do you have any short-term price predictions for precious metals?
Well, I do. At the beginning of the year, the first 3 months, I thought that we weren't going to get quite the dip that we had here. And I was looking for $60 silver by the end of the year. I'm not that bullish right now. I'm thinking that we're more looking at maybe $40 silver by the end of the year. Gold, I think, always holds up better. It's a bigger market. Probably be at the $19,000 to $2,000 level by the end of the year. So I'm looking for gold to be at its old high, or nominal high, not inflation adjusted high of 1900 to 2000 by the end of the year. Whereas silver, I don't expect it to be at its nominal high of 48. I'm looking at probably 40 or so. But what I do want to point out is if it is at 40 or above, there's very little what's called upward resistance. In other words, not a lot of people that bought it above 40. So most of them have either sold out or holding strong. So it could zoom up from 40 to 50 to 60 in a very short period of time, not days, but in a matter of weeks or a couple of months. So once we get above 40, I think we're setting the stage for the next leg up in the precious metals.
So great. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just want to commend you on your age and your enthusiasm and getting into this arena. I think we need more people in your age group to wake up to the truth. And again, I just want to compliment you for taking your time to get this out there.
Well, thanks. And if our viewers want to learn more, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, there's several places on the internet. I'll give the free ones first. I have a Twitter account, SilverGuru22. That's on Twitter. YouTube channel is pretty popular. It's on YouTube. It's Silver Guru. And then on the main site, which is silver-investor.com, you can sign up for a free e-letter. It comes out weekly. If you sign up initially, you'll get the autoresponder will send you the 10 rules of silver investing about every 3 days. After that, you'll get a weekly update. That's all free. And then for those that are serious about money, mining, and metals, we have 3 levels of service: a basic plus look over my shoulder to see what trades I'm making, and then an advanced service primarily for high net worth individuals and or fund managers.
Well, David, it was a pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to the next time we can have you on.
My pleasure. Thank you.